All right, everybody, welcome. We'll go ahead and call the work session to order. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Agent, Clegg,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Sanchez,
Here.
Willits,
Here.
Woodings,
Here.
5 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. So we've got one item before executive session, and that is we get to meet Mary Brown, the grants manager, with it for an introduction and then an overview of the child care ARPA, those recovery dollars programmatic update. With that, come on up. Welcome. And we've got also with us today, Linda from the clerk's office. Ivy, are you part of this as well? You're just watching? Great. Kate Nelson, and then Beth Oppenheimer from the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children, all who've been involved in did I get it right or no? Okay. All who've been involved in the child care programming. And welcome, Mary.
How's that?
Yes.
Great. All right, Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for having me. I am here this afternoon to introduce myself to you, as well as give you an update on the development of DFA's new grants office. So my name is Mary Brown. I joined the city from the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, where I was the grants and contracts manager there and oversaw a wonderful team who is responsible for overseeing and managing that state agency's grants management portfolio. And so that looks like about $70 million in annual revenue, and they do a lot of great work. And that team is also responsible for managing the organization's contracts and subaward agreements. And so I was supporting that work there. And prior to that organization, I also worked at a nonprofit organization in Oklahoma, where I earned experience in competitive grant writing and securing private funding and corporate sponsorships. And it was primarily at DEQ where I got the bulk of my federal grants compliance background. And so that was a really great opportunity. And also the majority of those roles, I worked very closely with internal stakeholders to increase capacity for grant seeking activities or merging teams together to create greater efficiencies and oversight efforts. So now that the worst part of my presentation is over, I'm going to get into the city content. So if you all will recall, you approved an IBC back in May of 2021 that created, or rather allowed for the addition of 3.5 FTE for DFA for grants management activities, primarily in support of the ARPA funds that the city was going to receive, but also for long-term grants management infrastructure capacity as well. And so that approval paved the way for my position, which I stepped into in November of 2021. So I thought I could give you a brief update of what I have been working on to date since November, and then tell you a little bit about where I think we might be headed. So far to date, I have primarily been focused on the supporting internal stakeholders in the development and administration of the city's ARPA program. And so primarily I've been doing so from a compliance lens. And so that has looked like working with internal stakeholders, as well as some consultants that the city has hired to screen project ideas for eligibility to ensure that all of the activities for those projects are allowable uses under ARPA, as well as submit in partnership with other DFA stakeholders reports to the Treasury. And we have also been working really closely with Kate Nelson and Chloe Ross and Meredith Elton and other key stakeholders on the development of the ARPA subaward program. And so that's been where the majority of our time has been spent to date as well, since the final rule from the Treasury was issued in January. So a lot of work going into those efforts. We've also been focused on developing some technical assistance resources for internal staff. So developing a project management and compliance guide that's meant to summarize some of that Treasury guidance and make it really applicable to what's important for the city to be aware of, and be able to update that resource throughout the life of our projects. I have also been working on, I feel like I'm not breathing. Okay. I have also been working on building up the grants office team. And so we hired our first newest team member. So Joshua Levitt started in May of this year. His role is grants compliance analyst. So definitely a federal grants compliance focus, but also here to add capacity to long-term grants management infrastructure and grant seeking for the city. He comes to us from the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare and has a really great background in federal grants compliance and has been a huge support since he's been here. So, and where we have had additional bandwidth, we've also worked to support grant applications here at the city and plan to do so moving forward as we're able in the short term. And so the Boise Police Department recently submitted a new grant application to the Department of Justice's COPS office. And so we were there to support with that application. And we plan to do so as well for various IIJA opportunities that are coming up and just add support and assistance where we can. In terms of what opportunities I think lie ahead of us, I think I really envision continuing to develop the grants office team to invest in additional capacity for funding opportunity research, to add more support to internal staff with the development of grant applications and coordinating those applications so that we free up their time to service our community. Also investing more time into ensuring that we're in compliance with all of the federal guidelines and continuing to provide technical assistance, supporting the city's audits and any future subaward program administration. If I was going to summarize really the intent of those efforts, and where I see them today, I think some of our long-term goals would be strengthening that grants management infrastructure. So we're in a position where we can be really proactive in pursuing additional funding for the city and making strategic choices about what that looks like, as well as maintaining compliance throughout all of those efforts to really allow staff to free up time for themselves and really work on, the service that their departments are providing to our community and really increase our overall impact for the organization. So with that information, I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mary?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Mary, we're very excited to have you. I think when I came to the city, I heard from a lot of staff like, oh, grants, we don't want to do that because they are. I mean, they're a lot of work. They're overwhelming. You have the compliance piece, but I do think there's so much opportunity out there. And I just see this position and you being such a great facilitator of meeting those opportunities. So thank you for coming to the city. Really appreciate it.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Welcome, Mary. To echo the pro tem's sentiments, we are so excited. No pressure. But something I would just like to put on your radar. I'm the one who asks things that are just random, so you should get used to that. Something that happens a lot to our folks here in our city is we have the people who fall in between the cracks. It's folks, for example, now with the housing crisis that we're experiencing, folks that make too much to qualify for the programs that exist, but don't make enough to get into a housing situation. So in your search, in your hunt for grants, if there's some magical grants out there that exist to cover those gaps for those folks that still desperately need our help, if you could keep an eye out for those, that would be awesome. Thank you, Mary.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you. And absolutely noted, Councilmember Sanchez.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, welcome and really excited to have this position up and running. It's interesting. I work with cities all over the state and many much smaller cities than us have grants managers. And I've seen that position really make a difference in those cities in terms of the kinds of resources they can bring to bear on, particular things of interest for various members of the staff and or council. So I look forward to seeing what the future is going to bring. Excited about the various ARPA funding programming that we've got to date and hearing about the childcare one, but I really look forward to this being a tremendous opportunity to expand the way that we look at how we can work on particular initiatives.
Madam Mayor, Council President Clegg, thank you. And that is a great segue. I'd like to introduce Kate Nelson. She's here to give you some updates on the Child Care Incentive Pay project under ARPA.
Okay. Madam Mayor, council members, I'm really excited to be before you today to talk more about the ARPA Child Care Project. I have a lot to go through, so I'm going to try to move as quickly as I can and leave leave time for questions at the end. Before I start, I just want to say that Mary is a fantastic add to the city. It has been a delight to work with her. She brings so much expertise and value, and I'm really glad that she decided to join the city as well. Can everybody hear me all right? Thank you. Okay, so I'll begin the presentation with a quick recap of ARPA funding that has been allocated for external partnerships and projects. I'll then provide some context to demonstrate the need for the support and feedback from our community before walking through the project design, timelines, and implementation. Of the $36.9 million in ARPA Rescue Plan Act funds the city received, council approved $10.2 million to go directly into the community to serve Boiseans who have been adversely impacted by COVID-19 through investments in childcare, food security, housing, mental health, and small business support. Boiseans identified childcare as a critical area of need during our ARPA outreach. Residents made it clear that the high cost of childcare and lack of availability have serious negative impacts for their families. Low wages for childcare workers are a significant contributing factor to this barrier. As such, staff has developed an approach to provide incentive pay to early childhood educators who endured the challenging workplace conditions in the pandemic. The city will partner with the Association for the Education of Young Children, Idaho EUIC, to facilitate the distribution of $3 million to licensed early childhood educational professionals. While these funds are intended to provide immediate relief and support to Boise's childcare system, the city will continue to implement system-level changes, such as reducing the licensing burdens for childcare providers and coordinating childcare administration with our state partners. Before I continue, I want to call attention to how the terms childcare provider, provider, worker, and early childhood education educator are referenced throughout my presentation. While the city of Boise has specific definitions according to code for each of those, I'm going to use them interchangeably throughout the presentation to mean all licensed childcare professionals within the city of Boise or that have a city of Boise license. And I also want to thank Beth Oppenheimer, who is here today, and she leads Idaho EYC. Economic impact. So according to a study conducted in partnership between the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Idaho AEYC, and the Association of Commerce and Industry titled Untapped Potential in Idaho, childcare issues cost the state of Idaho an estimated $479 million of loss every single year. Childcare challenges are a significant cause of employee absence and turnover, with over half of parents surveyed for the study reporting that they've missed work in the past 3 months because of childcare issues. Beyond the study, Mayor McLean's economic transition team identified addressing the childcare crisis as a top priority for strengthening Boise's economic well-being. I want to take a moment to share what we heard directly from childcare providers in Boise. Each of these individuals have been a childcare provider for over 20 years. One provider shared that as rents have raised for her employees, so has the turnover. Another owner expressed feeling caught in the middle between raising prices for parents or not being able to provide wages that keep pace with rising costs of living. Another provider articulated the extreme choices some early ed professionals are having to make, citing 3 childcare owners who have not drawn a salary in the past 2 years so that they could pay their employees. Guidance from the Administration for Children and Families unequivocally supports increasing compensation for childcare workers. ACF stated raising the wages of childcare staff is a central part of stabilizing the industry and strongly encouraged the use of funds, including ARPA funds, for bonuses and incentive pay. Carving out compensation for the workforce is part of a progression towards longer-term change. Circling back to the interviews conducted with Boise childcare providers, each expressed very strong support for incentive pay, some going so far as to say that the incentive pay that has been provided through the state of Idaho has really allowed them to keep their workforce and their businesses open. It is with this collective body of research, knowledge, and input that city staff has designed the child care incentive pay program. So as you can see from this slide, the city of Boise is the designated prime recipient of the ARPA dollars. We've identified a partner in Idaho EYC with experience and expertise administering funds to childcare providers, which in accordance with Treasury guidance are defined as beneficiaries. After analysis, city staff in concert with Barry Dunn, an ARPA consultant with the city, determined there was justification for a non-competitive subaward. A bit more about our partner, Idaho EYC. They began in 1986 as a statewide membership-driven organization for early educators and childcare professionals. In November 1998, Idaho AEYC was granted nonprofit status as a 501c3 organization by the IRS. Idaho EYC manages both public and private funding sources with specific reporting requirements. The management and fiscal team at Idaho EYC effectively oversee federal grants as well as numerous private foundations and local partnership contributions. Idaho EYC is a longtime partner with the city and government agencies to support the advancement of quality early education in Idaho. Okay, so project summary. Here we have kind of the bones of the project. As previously mentioned, each childcare provider as of May 1st, 2022, will be able to receive a one-time payment of $1,500. The retroactive date of May 1st was chosen because licensing numbers were at a peak as compared to previous months, maximizing the number of eligible providers, and a retroactive date was selected to avoid incenting individuals to attain a license for the purpose of incentive pay. Considering the average wage for a child care worker in Idaho is just $12.13, and that's like on the high side for the estimate an hour, which equates to a little over $24,000 a year. Based on these numbers, $1,500 represents 6% of the average worker's annual salary. $1,500 is an amount that can really bolster a child care provider's household income. This number also ensures that there is room in the budget for all eligible providers in Boise to receive this financial support. Timeline. So upon council approval of the agreement with Idaho EYC this evening, we are ready to jump into action. Tomorrow, an outreach campaign will kick off announcing the funding opportunity. Childcare providers can apply for incentive pay starting August 1st. After auditing the applications, Idaho EYC will begin fund disbursement on November 1st of 22 and will conclude on December 31st of 22, if not prior. Idaho EYC and the city of Boise will announce this program to the community through a variety of marketing efforts during this time frame of July 20th through August 31st. Marketing efforts will include social media posts, postcard mailers, press releases, newsletter announcements, direct emails, and text messages. Additionally, this program will be promoted through the Region 4 Idaho Stars office. Further communication efforts may be used to ensure that local child care providers are informed of this opportunity. A months-long application period was selected based on Idaho EYC's historical expertise distributing similar funds, which have validated the success of a shorter application window. Additionally, the city of Boise has contact information for each provider, making direct communication and outreach possible. Applicants will be required to upload a child care worker license that was valid as of May 1st, 2022, along with a W-9 in the RISE database. RISE is the state of Idaho's online platform for professionals working with children ages birth 1 to 12 in any setting. To receive this grant, applicants must have an account in RISE and provide their RISE email and account number. Grant applications will mirror RISE data fields, and a record of the stipend will be recorded in RISE. All applications will be processed after the close of August 31st. Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children will verify 100% of the applicants using the RISE database to confirm licensing requirements and the W-9. Currently, 40% of Boise childcare providers have a RISE account. Requiring that applicants have a RISE account will allow Idaho STARS and Idaho AEYC, who are the co-administrators of the child care block grant dollars that Idaho receives, better, more complete data regarding the child care workforce. It will also permit providers the opportunity to apply for professional development scholarships, sign up to be an ICCP provider, which is the child care subsidy in the state of Idaho, take online and live trainings, and manage their child care business information and parent referrals all in the RISE system. Funding disbursement will be made to recipients via a physical check that will be mailed to the recipient's address as it appears in RISE. Checks returned with invalid addresses will accrue a return fee for AEYC to process. Idaho AEYC will track and manage payments through its accounting system, and each check will have an identification number. The City of Boise staff and our partner in Idaho AEYC are committed to making applications accessible and equitable. Applications will be made available in multiple languages. Information will be available in plain language, clearly articulating eligibility criteria, how to apply, and how to access the application. A city ARPA email address is already operational and monitored regularly by multiple city staff members. And Madam Mayor and Council Member, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to stand for questions.
Madam Mayor, just a quick question. This is more just informative for me. So you said there was about 40% of people who are already signed up for RISE. Is there a reason that other folks aren't currently using the program? Is it just not something that's valuable to them at this point, and then once the grant's on there, it will be? Or do you know why some folks are already using it and why some folks aren't?
Madam Mayor, Council Member Halliburton, I would like to defer to Beth Oppenheimer on this, but before I do, I will say that the RISE system is relatively new. It's really exciting that it has been developed in the past few years, and it is voluntary. Would you like to step up and speak to that? Or you can provide some information about maybe some tangible reasons why people have not signed up yet. Okay.
And also just, I'm not critical that we're using it. I'm just curious about the program or the platform because I hadn't heard of it before.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton. The RISE system, as Kate mentioned, it is new. It's all voluntary. There's a couple of reasons why not all childcare providers are engaged in that. First of all, some of them don't know. So if you're a new childcare provider, you just don't know. So it's an educational thing. And other people might not participate because they don't feel a need in being in the system. But we are encouraging every childcare provider because it does open so many doors for our childcare providers in terms of receiving professional development opportunities. We offer academic scholarships for anyone that's willing to get or wanting to get a degree in early childhood. We've got partnerships with all of the colleges and universities in Idaho. And if you want to get a degree, we actually pay for that. And there's a lot of other incentives to do that. But some people just don't know. Some people think, I don't need it, but this is a really good opportunity to encourage folks to enter the RISE system. And it also will allow the city of Boise and Idaho AYC and Idaho STARS project to be able to better share data and be able to better make sure that we know who is a childcare provider in the city of Boise, what that looks like, what their trainings are, a whole bunch of opportunities to be able to look at that data differently.
Yeah, wonderful. And Madam Mayor, just a quick follow-up there. And so the technical assistance might be used for if somebody didn't know how to use the system, or if they were having trouble accessing it or navigating it for some reason, then there would be assistance for folks who maybe hadn't used it before. Is that correct?
Sure, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton. We have a customer service team at Idaho AYC, and we help navigate, help childcare providers navigate all kinds of things, one of which is to enter the RISE system. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a couple different fields that they have to enter. And then also we do individuals and we also do facilities. So we're able to track facilities. So if you're a child care facility owner, it's a requirement for them to have all of their staff listed in that program so that we can continuously see in real time who the staff are of that provider, so that we can make sure that we're providing all of the resources and information that all the child care providers need.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, quick question. So first of all, thank you. And really appreciate the outreach plan. I have a question because my daughters tell me that email is for old people. And they do everything by text. They don't ever look at their email, and much to my chagrin. So I noticed that text messages were part of your plan. How do you know who to send the text messages to? Is this through the RISE program, or is it through the city when you have to register? I'm curious about how we get that information.
Madam Mayor and Council Member Willits, that's a great question. So right now, Idaho EYC already has that system and capability set up to reach all the providers in the RISE system via text. The city is working on building that capability. We don't currently have it. That is why we're moving forward with a complementary and dual outreach plan so that we are using as many mediums and tools available to us.
Thanks. I think that's really smart, and meeting people where they are. And particularly, there's a lot of younger people that work in this field, and my daughter included, and she texts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, thank you. This is all exciting, Kate. I'm wondering if there's a possibility for there to be an additional or an augmented bonus for folks with multilingual abilities. I know that it's something that I think childcare providers who have those bilingual abilities, it's something that I don't think has ever acknowledged. I think it's an added quality, added value that's just not compensated. And I appreciate Madam Mayor really highlighting the need for us here at the city of Boise with our language access program coordinator, Eulalia Gallegos, doing such amazing work to ensure that we value that here, that it's not something that we just take for granted, but that it's a skill. And I'm wondering if there's a possibility that might even help with outreach, if people know that their bilingual abilities is an added value that's being recognized and would be compensated in that bonus. Just a thought.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilwoman Sanchez. We evaluated a variety of metrics to come up with a rubric, and whether or not we wanted to move forward with a rubric, looking at professional skill set and varying the amount of incentive pay accordingly. We went with the flat rate for a number of reasons, partially because of knowing that we had a finite amount of resources and we're able to guarantee with that $1,500 amount, as I stated earlier, that each of the approximately 1,900 licensed providers in the city of Boise could receive that funding. But as we progress with the other system-wide approaches, there has been a lot of conversation and intent to support
and demonstrate the value of multilingual childcare providers, because your point is very well stated. And we know that the importance of quality early childhood education, and then you add multiple languages on top of that, and the positive impacts for brain development and a multitude of other aspects of child development are positively impacted.
Madam Mayor, I really appreciated that, the presentation and the way that it tied the availability of quality childcare to our economy and the availability of workforce. And I think, and I just like to kind of put an exclamation point on that, and also take it a little bit further and say, it's opportunity for parents. It allows parents to achieve what they want to achieve in their lives. And I'm going to point out that most of the impact of the unavailability of childcare, or the lack of, I feel like lately there's been a lot of lack of certainty of childcare, like childcares are shutting down and then parents are stuck at home for a week. And, there's just been a lot going on. Most of that falls on women, and it's really a big deal. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And I get all weird about stuff like this. I think it's because I am coming through the trauma of being a working mom myself. And it's just a lot. It's a lot. So thank you.
Well, I think that, I'm sorry, I've got an itchy throat, so it's going to start to itch again. The graph that Kate showed with the economic impact of work lost because of the lack of access to childcare speaks volumes. And so there's economic impact to our community, to our families, to many women in particular that have left the workforce while juggling online school, COVID closures at daycare, et cetera. And then the very real impact on our childcare providers that are seeking certainty and kind of cost of living adjustments in their wages, and wanting to be able to provide the service to our community, but really struggling to make ends meet at these times that are really tough. And so there's only so much we as a city can do. I think it's really incumbent on the state to continue looking at what they can do with all of the recovery funds sitting in those bank accounts, and look at other states that, like New Hampshire, where the states have built out even more investments in childcare workers, in their education, in their school loans. And ultimately, those are investments in kids and investments in communities, because it's making it possible for people to seek opportunity. So I think the more we talk about this, and it was even before COVID, our Economic Development Transition Committee highlighted the need for this. We had CEOs, former CEOs of Boise Cascade, managing partners at different law firms. Kate was a part of that. I'm having really in-depth conversations about the economic impact of access to childcare in our community. And then lo and behold, several months later, it just became so much more clear. So really am grateful that we're able to do this and provide this support to those who care for our kids, because ultimately it's supporting families, and really hope that moving forward, we can see additional partnership with the state and others to grow this program, not just in Boise, but in the whole state, because parents need this everywhere.
Madam Mayor, may I just make one more point? Just again to highlight, these are licensed daycare providers. And that's so important, because when folks are desperate, they will turn to what is available. And sometimes that involves inadvertently, unintentionally putting children in harm's way just to try to put food on the table. And so I think that's something that needs to be highlighted. This is an effort to make sure that children are with folks who they're going to be properly and safely cared for. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Mayor, can I-
Yes.
Thank you. I will be really quick. I know we're almost out of time. I am really excited about this. I have grandchildren who need childcare right now and know firsthand how difficult it is for their parents to be able to work and afford and make the time for all of the ins and outs of getting their children to and from that childcare every day. This program, I think, will make providers more available. I hope it will stabilize to whatever degree we can, the market, if you will, so that those providers aren't living as much day to day, hand to hand as they have been. It's a short-term fix, but I think it's one that's really important. Quick question. We've set aside money for what we believe are all of the providers that we know are out there based on our own records, which are pretty complete because they have to license through us. What if we don't get calls for all of that money? Do we have, what's the plan for the going forward? Will we extend it? Will we expand it some way? Have you thought about that?
Madam Mayor and Council President Clegg, we have thought about that. So depending on the percentage, that triggers a tipping point as to whether or not we will extend for an additional month or recapture. So if it's approximately 80% have gone out of the funds, then we would still want to extend for an additional month so that whatever money we do recapture is a small amount.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Mary. Thanks the whole team, and great to see you, Beth. Thanks for coming out.
You guys are the best.
You as well. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I move we go into executive session, personnel, land acquisition, records exempt from public disclosure, pending probable litigation, communicate with risk management regarding pending probable claims, and labor contract, Idaho Code 74206 1B C D F I N J.
Clerk.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Willetts. Yes. Woodings. Yes. Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
We will be back in here at 6.